Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you so much for tuning in to episode 3 of the GAMA live stream. Now, the first episode, we had a bunch of artists from the United States. The second episode, we did a special UK edition. And the third one, because we got to do it bigger and better every time, GAMA Global, presenting to you artists and organizers from 5 different countries. So it is my distinct honor to welcome them all. Before I do that, before I introduce all of the, and thank you so much for tuning in to episode 3 of the GAMA live stream. Now, the first episode, we had a bunch of artists. Hear a little bit of echo there. The second episode, we did a special. Okay. There was a little bit of echo. I could hear the same audio, but okay, I think we're good now. So anyways, as I was saying, I'd like to start this live stream with a chapter of the Quran, Al-Fatiha, the opener, and then inshallah we're going to dive right in. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Beautiful. Now I'm here in the home studio over here in Oakland, California. The rain is pouring down. I can see flowers from my window. There are blessings all around, and I pray that there's blessings around where you are as well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce all of the artists here today, and then we're going to dive right into the program right after that. So today, our first artist is Khalid Al-Bay. He is a phenomenal cartoonist. He's got his finger on the pulse, and he really, his art serves the community in a really major way, in a way that art itself acts in the community, and that's precisely what he does through his art. So. And then after Khalid, we will be hearing some music and poetry from Medina, who's tuning in from Spain. She is phenomenal. She is a healer through her work, and she's just got an amazing garden. Follow her on Instagram if you're not already. Assalamu alaikum, Medina. And after Medina, we will be joined by Ghazi, who's tuning in from Muscat, Oman. He is an organizer as well as a singer-songwriter and a poet, and I just can't wait to see what he shares. Special live stream today. Assalamu alaikum, Ghazi. And we'll conclude the art sharing with a short story by Muhammad Mawakil from Trinidad. Really special guest to have on. We are honored to have him at the GAMA, Muhammad. And that is your lineup for today. So as you go along in the live stream, please feel free to add in your comments if you want to say anything to any artists in particular. If you have any questions, also please feel free to add them into the comments. And without further ado, we'll start the program by inviting Khalid up onto the metaphorical stage.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you very much, Abbas and team, for inviting me. My name is Khalid Al-Bay. I'm a Sudanese political cartoonist and artist. I've been doing this for the last 10 years. I work mainly online. I never worked for a newspaper, and that's because I wanted to stay independent. Especially because of in politics, it's very important to stay independent as a journalist and as an artist, and that has always been a problem, and that's why you see a lot of now you see the fake news and what's fake news and what's not, and who's telling the truth and who's not, and this is and even the people that do fake news are accusing the other people to doing fake news because nobody knows who's really doing what, because if you follow the money, you know who's paying who, right? So I'm broke, but I'm saying what I want to say. So I work a lot in issues that have to do with immigration, human rights, and just I always try to figure out ways to unite us in a way and ask questions, because I lived most of my life outside of Sudan. I lived in Europe. I lived in the States. Right now, I'm in Copenhagen. I'm basically the artist in residence for the city of Copenhagen. It's a residency for artists at risk, artists and writers at risk. And so what I try to do is basically connect the world with the world that they don't see behind the wall, whether it's like the paywall, or whether it's Trump wall, or whether it's the media wall, or whatever it is. Which I try to get people to basically discover the other side, and just think of it of more of like the other people than, okay, like they're a lot like us, right? Because sadly, people in North America and Europe and the West as a whole, they were always told that we're the other, as Muslims, as Africans, as as whatever. So it's so that's basically what I try to do. And I picked up one piece of work here. It's a cartoon that I've just did like 2 weeks ago, and I don't know if everyone can see it. Can you see it? Yeah. Okay. So the cartoon is about coronavirus, of course, because that's what's going on right now. But it's about a segment of people that we really don't know what's happening to them right now. It's people who are stuck in refugee camps around the world. People who have no privilege of doing this social distancing, and keeping to themselves, or using masks, or using hand sanitizers and so on. And none of that. They can't afford it. And some of them are in camps that they're stacked up in places with their whole family, and sometimes with people they don't know. And there's the situation is really bad, and it's just it's just saying that, look at yourself right now. The whole world is scared of what's going to happen, but you have the privilege of having a home. You have the privilege of being protected somehow. So let's think about the people who are not. How do they feel? What do you think is happening over there, and how can we help? And just keeping them in our mind, keeping them in our prayers, and trying to do figure out what can be done. So it's just a simple drawing, and it's the family running is basically the logo for Refugees Welcome, and then of course the corona running after them. Again, like with all the other things that are running after them, now they have this virus that's running after them. So that's the artwork. If you go to my Instagram page or my Facebook page, I try to do as many cartoons that I can, but now that I'm stuck at home with 3 children, it's very, very hard to produce work. But it's priorities, right? So you have to put your own oxygen mask first, and try to take care of your family first, and then when I have time, I try to do work as well. So yeah, that's it for me.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. This is an especially poignant image. As you mentioned, right now everyone's taking care of their own. In a time of crisis, we're taking care of our own family, making sure that our financials are straight, making sure that everything is straight. But our neighbors, literally our neighbors, whether there are homeless people in your city, whether are the elderly people who don't have family members, whether it's refugees like in your image, I mean, we're all interconnected in a major way. And I think this virus is really showing that more than anything else, is you can get this from humans. We're all interconnected. No one is not a part of this, right?
Absolutely. And I think, however bad this virus is, and whatever is done to the world, is also, for me, showed that we are in this one planet together at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're white, if you're black, if you're Muslim, or if you're something else. This is a very democratic kind of virus at the end. Everybody gets it, you know. So it's the one thing that we're all fighting together. And this, I don't remember the last time this happened, you know. So it's or even, you know, I never actually read about anything that at this magnitude that the whole planet is suffering from. You know, normally you hear about Ebola and it's in West Africa, and people are like, it's in West Africa, you know, they die anyways, you know. So it's like that's really what happens most of the time, you know. And even like 3 months ago, it was in China and it was so far away. People, like, you know, if you look at pictures from Italy, people were just like hanging out in cafes and, you know. But yeah, subhanallah, you know, things change like this in a day, and we're living a sci-fi film, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think your work is particularly striking because, you know, as we mentioned earlier, your finger's on the pulse. You always respond to what's going on around you. And that being said, I'm excited to see what cartoons you create about being in quarantine with your children.
No time, man. I swear. There's a lot to say. There's a lot to do, but it's, you know, it's very hard. I mean, you know, having kids is a blessing, but it's at the same time it keeps you busy, and it's you know, you're trying to do the right thing. So it's pretty hard, and this is unprecedented. I have no idea, you know, how to handle the situation. You know,
there's nothing to compare it to.
No.
So I'd love to learn more about your story and your history as well. So, you know, political cartoons is a very specific kind of art where it's art, but way beyond just the aesthetic value of art. And I'm very curious how you came to decide upon this as a path. Were there specific people or experiences that influenced you towards this specific medium?
So I'm from Sudan, and I come from, just like many people in Sudan, I come from a very political family. My father was a diplomat. I have an uncle that was a president at some point. I have another family member that used to be the head of the Communist Party. So I always grew up around politics and, you know, all of that. My grandfather was exiled from Sudan. My father was, you know, also outside of Sudan for a long time. And when I started drawing, then I became part of that circle as well. So for me, it was interest. It was questions. It was like, what's happening? What does this mean? What is that? You know? And as I said, you know, growing outside of Sudan, it's just making connections. And for me, even as a young kid, the only thing that makes connection with other people is satire. It's funny. You know, it's being funny and I noticed that the jokes are the same, you know, whether you know, someone is joking about Trump, or whether someone is joking about our own president, or whether someone is joking about the king of Morocco, or it's the same jokes, just different names. And I figured out that this is how you relate mostly to people who are, most of the time, especially in our part of the world, are worried about talking about politics, are scared about talking about politics because of censorship, because of you know, the repercussions of that on you and your family. So when I figured, and I loved comics all of my life, you know, I read Superman and DC and, you know, all of that stuff. And when I saw, and I was drawing, you know, and so when I saw political cartoons as a child, this kind of mixed the two things together. It was comics, but it was also the thing that I was mostly interested in, which was politics and understanding it. And again, how, like, the cartoonists were always real, you know, even our part of the world, where they also, you know, they risk their life to tell a joke. And you have to think really, really hard as a cartoonist. How can you tell this joke without offending, you know, the president, or like the whatever, you know? So I was very impressed by their bravery, and I was very impressed about how they talk about the issue, you know, with all the censorship, but they not directly, but you get the message instantly. And you don't have to be a professor, you don't have to be a child, everyone gets the message, you know. So this is how I started doing cartoons. But it's not something that I've done, as I said, you know, for people. I've worked on commission basis and stuff like that, but I work in museums. I normally work in museums and culture institutes.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know that you got to run soon. I can see one of your beautiful angels sitting in your lap.
Yeah, one escaped.
Inshallah, future artist, right?
Inshallah.
So and I want to invite, if anyone on the stream has a specific question for Khalid before he leaves, please do type it out in the comment section. Khalid, one thing that I wanted to hear from you specifically, given the context of your work, but even in general, if you could speak to all the artists that are tuning in as well, as to what you believe is the role of the artist in the community. What is your philosophy behind the role of the artist?
I mean, the artists are a mirror of the time, right? And you're supposed to reflect what you think, because artists think in a different way. Artists can tell stories in a different way, and this a lot of people need that. And I guess now, while everybody's on quarantine, everybody realized that we do need artists, because everybody's watching films and everybody's listening to music and everybody's looking at memes, and this is what everybody's doing right now. So artists are very important, and it's things that you don't realize how important they are until you miss it. So this is the role of the artist is to keep producing, I think. And then we have to keep producing, and we have to make sure that we produce something that's real, something that reflects the time, something that reflects who we are and the situation of people around us. Artists are messengers.
Love that. And I love that you mentioned memes. And here at Gamma, we want to empower all artists. So if you're at home during this quarantine and you're sitting at home and making memes, just know that you are an artist, and you need to own that title. You heard it from here.
I mean, memes are the new political cartoons, man. There you go.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your work, and I hope everyone checks out your Instagram as well to see more work from there. And as you mentioned, we're in this quarantine time, and this is a special time to create artwork.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you have like children screaming around you all day, it might be a little difficult. But in general, this is an opportunity you can go outside, so let's go inside. And I want to remind folks that on our first live stream, Destiny Muhammad threw down a really special challenge. And she said in 30 days, we're going to come back here and present work that you have created during this shutdown. She said, let's change the narrative from shelter in place, quarantine. Let's call it an artist in residence. And in fact, you all are artists in your own residence, right? And so during this time, I invite anyone and everyone. We have some special hashtags in place. Post your work. Use our hashtags. And on the 19th, we're going to bring back artists from all of our live streams and do a special stream. And everything that we present that day will be brand new work created during quarantine. Because what we want to show the world is that we do not feel hopeless during times of crisis. In fact, we, as you mentioned, reflect. And what do we reflect but beauty? What do we reflect but, validation for people who are suffering, and so on, inshallah. So I don't think there are any questions from the live stream, but I want to know, Khalid, if you have any final words to any aspiring artists who hope to achieve the same level of impact that you have.
I would say just it's not about quantity, it's about quality. Right? It's about producing the right stuff. It's about producing things that can touch the heart, touch the soul, touch people. It's not about doing a million things. It's about doing one thing that makes sense and makes people think and makes you think as well. So it's all about creating something that creates curiosity for people to like, okay, so what's going on there, or how does this work, and so on. I've learned this after 10 years of working daily for 10 years, and I've been online, I've been on my phone like this, and I'm on Twitter, and I'm trying to like figure out the news and everything that comes up. I try to do a cartoon about it, and I try to, and at the end I was like, so what am I doing? Am I part of the problem or am I part of the solution? I'm running in this hamster wheel that they're making us run in, and I'm hurting myself, and I'm not saying anything new. So now I've decided that, or for the last few years, I decided that I'm not going to do anything just because of the sake that I've done something, right? I was very enthusiastic. I had a lot of hope, but of course, because of politics, I lost a lot of friends during the Arab Spring and so on, where whether they're in jail or they had to leave, or so I would just say that take care of yourself, work when you can, and work for something that is meaningful.
That's beautiful so much for your wise words. I really admire your work and your dedication, your tenacity, and thank you so much. It's been such an honor having you here on the GAMA live stream.
I wish I could have stayed and heard the rest of the guys, but I'm gonna follow all you people. Try to get some new friends.
And this video will be available also afterwards for anyone that missed the live stream, so you'll be able to catch that.
Inshallah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much.
Alaikum salam. So next up on our list, we have all the way from Spain, Medina Tenur, Medina Whiteman. She is a phenomenal poet and musician. And so I'd like to invite her to the stage now, and love to hear from her.
Alaikum, can you hear me?
I'm loud and clear.
You! This is very surreal. First time I've ever done a live stream before. So I'm hoping, praying it all goes smoothly. But it's really been fascinating to listen to Khalid's work. I occasionally dabble in cartoons. I think humor is a really, really amazing tool, and politically as well, because when you laugh, your mind stops jabbering for a minute. It's like a moment of enlightenment, and two, because people listen when they're laughing. And if you make people feel good about themselves, same with music, if you make people feel good, they're going to be much more open to the message that you give them. I read an Arabic proverb recently: when you shoot an arrow of truth, dip it in honey, which I liked a lot.
Wow.
So, yeah. Hug, right? So I'm going to read a few poems. How long do we have each?
10 minutes. I mean, we're all artists and mystics. Time really ceases to exist for us, right?
Yeah, that's a great excuse. I love that, Abbas. I wanted to read one poem which I actually wrote after we had a conversation the other day, Abbas. I've been writing a few poems in quarantine, so I'm not going to read all of them in case, I can share them later. But this one was quite funny, talking on the subject as well about having kids at home. 2 of them are now with their dad. One is here and he's 5. And yeah, no school and working from home. Very interesting social experiment. I mean, for this saying, it'll be a miracle. But yeah, you got to laugh. You got to laugh your way through it. So this poem is called God of Any Means Available. God of the spider web, God of the narrow and the wide, of outside and inside, of low and high tide, dawn and afternoon shadow slide. Guide my tanglesome mind, your ayat clarify, so every thud of my heart's quickening, each ache of body sickening, each stir of chicken soup, every bloody interruption, do you lot mind? Where was I? God of the scratched out, God of let me fix that, God of I could have done that better, God of show me how. Let each cup I take be a right, a remembrance, a basking in your light, God of both thirst, teaspoon and thirst, who swears by time and the fig, nothing is too small or too big to be your sign.
Allah.
We had a beautiful conversation the other day, Abbas and I, and that's what came out of it. So thank you, Abbas. Okay, so I'm gonna crack on. Right, this is since we're on the topic of Muslim artists, sometimes I don't always write poetry that has like Islamic themes particularly, but sometimes I find it, it's just a beautiful way of expressing something that you have, and it's quite I don't want to say niche exactly, because that makes it sound like it's part of a market. I guess it is, but it's something quite unique because most poetry is very secular, and I think generally in art, there's especially in Europe, at least, there's a very strongly secular tendency. And so people of faith don't often really get any kind of platform. Anyway, so this is a poem that some people might relate to. It's called A Foreign Array of Stars. Dhikr is a ladder, but it doesn't lead up directly. I'm getting an echo. The treads crack apart under your feet. A trapdoor opens in the earth, and you thought you were here to get high. Unseen hands strap a headlamp to your forehead, and you go forensically down, trusting the rope of your master's words that connects your waist to the ground. Astaghfirullah places a mop in your hand, and you set to work, clearing a maze through the slime and junk. Spiderwebs afflict to threads, chests of guilty bones forgiven, and a trail of gold crumbs glitters. Subhanallah turns the mop to a pickaxe, gives you the will to pierce the rock. And astonishment cleaves your breast as the rock face opens, veil parting, vein beckoning. Alhamdulillah draws you into the molten river, heats your frozen mass, in the heat approaching the core, and you cannot but float along until La ilaha illallah delivers you to the center. So perfect, it doesn't raise a bubble when you enter. So perfect, you'll wish you'd never leave. For who wants dimensions, otherness, need? Then Allahu Akbar tells you plainly that you are not this. It isn't that easy. There's still work for you to do. You need to find new places to puncture the surface and find your own way in. The rope round your waist leads to the other side, pulling forward now till you come out on a foreign array of stars. And it is not your world that has been turned upside down, but you. I like these like visual, like in poetry nights they do this. I want to read one poem from my book. So these are all new poems. I haven't published them yet. This one is called Night Bus to Hackney, and it's from this book called Love is a Traveler and We're Its Path. Sorry. This is a true story. I like the name because it kind of riffs off a Boney M song. Night flight to Venus. Night bus to Hackney, which is in East London. If you know London, you'll know Hackney as a place of grimness. I'm sorry. Grime hangs in London's, far from the gleam of white stone Aldwych, shy St. Martin in the fields behind, a bridal veil embroidered with plain leaves. The dazzle of downward lines reflected on the Thames, from the blue, red, green South Bank, the baubles of the boats, and the owlish eyes of Big Ben. I'm scrolling backwards now. I began in a frantic, fruitless race to meet my children's plane on the worst night of the year. A torrent of yellow lycra would be coming through the center of town tomorrow. Trains were already disrupted now, at midnight on a Sunday. Through the liquid flares of light in my livid tears, I hopped from Elephant and Castle to Westminster. That travel card, bought from the rosy-eyed skaghead at London Bridge for £2, proved a godsend. And from there I walked along Embankment, alone and childrenless, hunting down a night bus to Hackney. That day, I'd been rugby tackling 12 kids into creative writing. The only thing that seemed to grab them was the circular poem, written on one face of a Mobius strip. A clever trick, but it paused thoughts, the sentence cycling under eye, like a pavement that keeps returning. Under the bridge, the footpath was closed for works. Veering into the road, a brilliant white coach slowed as it passed me, just as the yellow LED ticker tape read, "To Godwood Street." I wanted to shout, "Yeah, Aziz, I call you and you answer." Now my feet clicked on Merrier, up old scents. There was Savoy Street. I was where I understood. Rounding Aldwych, a Scottish lass with gushing bloodied knee staggered and laughed. A flurry of people, wide-eyed and foolish, shoelaces undone with a sheen of vodka. I was safe on a British Belvedere, among Russians, Bengalis, and Koreans with maps. I took the N26 towards Chingford, and from the top deck we passed Godliman Street. For a city that scorns belief, it is thread-needled into its fabric, a strand of ore stitched through its petticoat, a bishop at one gate, a moor at the other. Once the protective shine of tourist attractions gave way to Cambridge Heath and Columbia Road, despite its decent international store, the gloom lurked in to leer at the lost. Tattery fringes hung from mislit lamps. A man wheeled past, an amp, his friend with blue ink smudged on his cheek, wished me selector. All the while my company is dhikr of Allah and nothing else, an ever-repeating refrain. Allah, 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 I'm going to sing something. So I have a very croaky chair to try not to, creaky chair, I try not to move around too much in it. How are we doing for time, by the way? Yeah? Okay, I'll do one song. This is a song, normally when I write songs, I write the music and then the words just sort of come along. This was the only time I've ever written a poem and then thought, actually, I want to turn that into a song. So it's a kind of song in reverse for me. The spring is bitter, so the sugar cane says, its waters burn the eyes. It has taken much from us. The glistening white chalk you say, but there's nothing like tasting for yourself. And when I did, my mouth proved they were speaking foreign tongues. My mouth proved they were speaking foreign tongues. Their bitter was my sweet, their burning my delight, and their drowning brought me back to life. Brought me back to life. The spring should be bitter if the sugar cane was right. Its waters will burn if you trust the eyes. But I don't take no heed of the whispering of the reeds. I need to find out for myself. Their bitter was my sweet, their burning my delight, like a drowning brought me back to life. Me back to life. Back to life. Back to life. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, mashallah. That's amazing. You really with especially with the song, you really took me right back to it was I mean it feels like something out of a movie. The night we first met was at it was at a gallery opening in London, and I was there with my shoes off in the front row, and you were playing the guitar, and it seems like all of time had just stood still.
Mashallah.
That
was a really fun night.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And in a little bit, when we reconvene, we will have some discussions and some questions from the audience, etc. For right now, I'd love to invite Ghazi up next, who's also a poet and a singer-songwriter. And I'm really excited to see what Ghazi has to share. And Medina, thank you so much, really, from the bottom of my heart. That was really special. And I can't wait to discuss these poems with you. Absolutely.
Ready? Yep. Ready.
All the way from Muscat, Oman, Ghazi Baluchi, everyone.
Thank you. I mean, there's only so much one can do, right? Wow, that was amazing. Medina, you're one incredible woman. I'll tell you that.
Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Big honor being with all of you awesome people here. Thanks for the opportunity, guys. I'm going to start by reading something off. Both my writings and music are normally quite short, so this shouldn't be too long. Okay, I'll just get right to it. You pick flowers, while I pick shards of sharp words you spoke in attempt to defend the crimes that rhyme with a name not mine. Now let me define what you have continuously done. You have crossed... Oh, I just messed that up. Can I do that again? I haven't done reading in a while, guys. I get it the second time. You pick flowers, while I pick shards of sharp words you spoke in attempt to defend the crimes that rhyme with a name not mine. Now let me define the line you continuously cross. Come cut the crap and remind your mind of what you have done. You have spun my world out of orbit. I choke in the space you flood between us, and it's more endlessly want more, but selfishly I do. Until I stop drifting in endless galaxies of thought to admit that yes, you are my love, but what really is a sun to a night but a party pooper? And all that we've shared is but a low budget movie blooper. A big bad rocket engine in the hood of a Mini Cooper. Now sucked back into reality through a black hole I so casually come to the realization that I've been casualty of a black soul, and quite honestly my tempered glass is full. Took too much of your time testing your temper, testing, talking about diamonds in the rough, but enough. See, I'm not blind. I know rocks and all of their kinds. I grew up watching televised tales of truly tough times in Palestine. I fought your battles one by one, but refused to fight a war that cannot be won. So you can have the rest of my life for fun. Forever skipping stars to find a new moon that would replace my sun.
Mm-hmm.
That's all, guys. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice.
So that's that. And that's one of the right things I constantly repeat at the poetry nights. Song next, and then maybe get back to another piece of writing that's shorter than the first one, and hopefully with less mistakes as well. So I really struggle writing on demand or composing or writing a song on demand. That's very difficult for me, and most times I like to kind of get lost in a specific mood or vibe or an emotion, and then also the music comes first, and then the writing comes later. So this is one of my favorite latest songs, and it's about meeting someone that's just as, I won't say messed up, but we all have our troubles, we all have our stories, and to find someone that you can relate to, but relate less in the beauty and relate more in the damage, and that's the beauty of it, of that relation. And this is what that song is basically. It's to say it's okay, just let's enjoy the moment and forget about everything else. Also, I really love the Indian pop like this with that, but I don't have it right now, so. Lay your heart down by mine. He pours a glass of sin. We're so unlike you and I. The light that we shine is growing dim. So rest your weary bones. Don't stretch yourself too thin. Let my hands trace down your back and read scars of where you have been. Let my body pray to yours. Yours pray to mine. Maybe our cause will be heard up above by a power divine. And I'll give you all my love, only if you give me some of your time. And all we can hope for now is forgiveness for all of our crimes. So lay your heart down by mine. Let me pour us a glass of sin. Let my hands trace down your back and read scars of where you have been. That's all from me, guys.
Beautiful.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wow. Wow. Oh my God.
Thank you. That was a new. Okay, let's pretend it's the original one because you guys don't know the original. Hope you guys like that.
That was beautiful. That was amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're straight to the next part to save time. Okay, so this one also has. I don't know how to explain this, but in Arab culture or the Middle East, a lot like the West, we have. I don't know how to say this, but people have relationships that aren't exact, regardless of the extent extent of that relationship. But you know, you have your teenage boyfriend girlfriend situation here. A lot of it. Although you hear very, very little online, or even in our communities, in our societies, it's not something people openly talk about. But it does happen regardless of the faith and how things work here. So there's this constant of, you know, you're raised a certain way, you know, it's not what you should be doing, but you can't help but maybe fall into it when you're younger. It's happening whether you like it or not. I mean, you do like it when you're younger, but you have this constant guilt eating at you, basically. And this was a poem. This was a poem to kind of reflect on meeting somebody you really like or are fond of, and you guys spend time together. This is not limited to any extent of how okay or not okay this relationship is. Unless you're married, there shouldn't be any relationship. So having one kind of in this really, and you don't know how to express that. This is quite graphic. Not the piece, but the message, I suppose. So I normally get some interesting reactions out of this when I do these at the poetry nights. It's a bit ballsy, but I'm going to do it anyway. It has a little dua in the end, and that's also in this side of the world, coming from the Middle East. You know, it's okay. Sometimes it's arguably okay to do music. Sometimes it's arguably okay to sing things that are slightly spiritual in your music. But as soon as it's a very recognizable dua or call to prayer with the music, then it's kind of a big no-no. So there's a lot of gray areas, and this has a little dua in the end in Arabic. So I hope you guys get this. It says, "Lord, forgive me, for I have sinned. Like a bird beating against the cold wires, trapped behind the frozen bones that bend and curve into these young ribs, my old heart hums melodic poetry inscribed in the back of my eyelids. Metaphors that rhyme with a name that is yours, form overrated similes that underrate the magnificence of your design. All I ever wanted was to make you mine. See, all I ever wanted was to make you mine. So tonight I'll rattle these bones and bags of skin and dance to melodies that sing stories of where we've been. I loved you in the name of God, but since then, you and I have met in sin. I loved you in the name of God, but since then, you and I have met in sin. I loved you in the name of God, Rabbul Alameen. اغفر لي وارحمني يا أرحم الراحمين. I loved you in the name of God, but since then, you and I have met in sin. That's it. That was a short one.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Right.
That,
Right.
that's
Wow, that was
Thank
powerful.
you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah,
Is
but
that time?
I mean,
Right.
Did I get too heavy too soon? I hope that was okay. It's just it sounded bigger than it was. It's just
No,
teenagers being teenagers. That's all. Don't worry about
that's that angst, man.
it. If my
Mashallah.
mother's watching this, I hope she knows it was a long time ago. I'm ready to settle down, Ramon. It's okay.
He's a reformed man, you hear? He's looking for marriage. Hit us up in the DMs.
Not the Muslim name only, guys.
Someone needs
But
to
yeah,
complete his faith.
that's the truth. That's the truth. It happened. You have to write about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. I can see it. Okay. Is that time? Do we have time for like 3 more minutes? Or not?
Yeah, you got more?
No, just the song. Actually, no. Let's skip. I'm excited to see how we get to the discussion.
We absolutely will, but I mean, I gotta say, like your music, you gave us such a small taste and just left us wanting for more. That's not okay. Where can we find your music on?
I'm mostly active on Instagram, although I haven't been very active for quite a while. But Instagram, Twitter, and SoundCloud are basically where you can find my stuff. I'm sure you're going to share the social media handle, and it's the same one on all platforms. Yeah.
Okay, we've got your Instagram name that pops up when you're on the screen.
Instagram, Twitter, and SoundCloud. Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just reading from the comments here. Someone said, absolutely beautiful. There's no judgment here. You got to write about all the experiences. So thank you for that courage, Yani Bilmora. And people want to hear one more with the guitar. So inshallah, at the end of it, I don't know if you want to go right now or we can come back to you a little bit later, but we got to give the people what they want.
There's so much I need to get back to with this one. I need to catch up with and the eating. We've got plenty of time, guys. We'll do it at the end.
Thanks
all
for
the time in the world.
thanks for squeezing Gamma into your really tight schedule these days.
Giving up sleep time, but it's okay. It's worth it.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so
We're
much.
definitely gonna come back to your music with the guitar. And thank you for sharing what you shared and for being vulnerable and for being brave with your work. Because with art, if it's censored, if it's not genuine, then it's not real, and it sort of misses the mark, right? So,
100%.
I think your work really struck a chord with us today.
Thank you.
So Muhammad Muwakil, I mean, I don't even know how to introduce this guy. So much he has done, so much he does, so much he is doing. But just to sum it up into one word, it's healing. It's healing. So I'd like to invite Muhammad up from Trinidad, Trinidad in the house, to come and heal us. Inshallah, take it away.
Bismillah. So I had no idea what to do, and I thought that somewhere along the line it would be revealed. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna listen, how to do, and I still don't know what to do. Everyone's hearing me clearly, right? Yeah. Okay. Since I'm among musicians, I'll start with a song, and then I'll see where we go from there. Abbas, you're gone. Where'd you go? Written clearly on the walls, I saw it there one day. Most know the truth about life, but most are afraid to say. Some say it's too little, some say it's too much. Some say there's just enough for every one of us. Some live, some die, some are waiting for their time. Some cry, some are raging through their fights. Some despair, some are lost, some will never ever find. Some don't care what it costs, some are paying with their lives. Amen, 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 amen. Sometimes you want to speak and the truth gets stuck in your throat. Sometimes you do the right thing, and Lord, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you move forward, sometimes you stand still. It's all in the Master's hands, it's all part of His. Some live, some die, some are waiting for their time. Some hope, some cry, some are raging through their fires. Some despair, some are lost, some will never ever find. Some don't care what it costs, some are paying with their lives. Amen, 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 amen. Amen, amen,
¿Estás usando el internet? Oh,
Looks like we are frozen.
Did it freeze?
Yeah, it froze a little bit, but that was, oh man. Oh
Wow.
man. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was beautiful. And can you, I mean, I just love this about your guitar and your playing. Can you hold up your guitar and tell us what it says there? Hi, Muhammad, can you hear me?
Oh, this. Yeah, you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
This is not the guitar you're thinking about. This is another guitar, but it does have things written on it.
Mm, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I know your artwork, you know, you have your singing, you have your spoken word, you have your poetry, but you also have your visual art, and your story writing. And I mean, you know, I have a question. Is there anything that you can't do creatively? Is that possible?
I tried to fly once and I broke both my feet, but I'm okay. I'm
Oh
all
man, I
right.
like that answer.
I'm all right. So I didn't know what to do, but there's so that's one song. I wanted to share a short story. Um, it's written in two parts. Uh, yeah.
Muhammad, it looks like you're frozen again.
I always feel like I don't understand why.
Is it winter down in Trinidad? You're okay
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Did you just say winter in Trinidad? No, please don't wish that on us. We're already locked inside. Yeah, we wouldn't know what to do with the winter if we got winter here. What would we do with that? Can you imagine? Frozen coconuts. All right. Um, the first part of the story is called Rasul. The roar swirling in my ear feels like a message, always ominous, and no one believes me. In my early life, it so compelled me that I learned to speak by the age of 2. My farmer says my first attempts to talk came so early that they thought I was sick and definitely knew that something was wrong. When as a 3-month-old baby, I just wouldn't until I was picked up, and the moment I would start gargling vowels and staring directly into the eyes of whoever held me, trying desperately to gesticulate with my now born limbs. They laughed at first, but so persistent were my efforts to communicate that after a while they recorded me and gave the footage to a linguist who was a friend of my other. I don't know what came of that, but it's a story I heard. Nothing I can verify. All I know is that by the time I learned the words to say, it's coming leaving the muzzle on during the day, except when they knew I was so hungry, I would just eat and not scream. They locked me in the library that was adjacent to my father's study and set up a hologram tutorial on reading. I was 3 then. I was insane to them. That was it. The roar in my ears drove me mad whenever I stood up straight, so even when I learned to walk, I kept my back bowed, only slightly at first. I only straightened up to reach my books on the shelves or to accept food from whoever brought it to me that day. In my head, I had a really high command of English and Thuringian by the time I was 5, but I still couldn't speak beyond a few words. The muzzle never allowed my jaw and tongue to develop the proper motor skills, so it turns out that to anyone who did not actually sit with me and try to communicate, I was simply insane. And maybe in
For those who are watching, it looks like
some
the
sense that
video
was a
keeps
truth, but
freezing.
there are layers to everything. At any rate, the slightly bowed back became more pronounced. Sorry?
It looks like the connection keeps
It froze
freezing.
again.
Yeah, every 20 or 30 seconds it freezes up. But no worries. I think because
I'm so sorry.
I think because it keeps freezing, it's a little bit to follow the short story, but no
Yeah.
worries at all. I think we can go back to sharing some music that might be a little bit easier for the current connect.
I'm so sorry, y'all.
No
I don't know
worries. I
what's
think
wrong
it's
with
a,
this.
I think it's a sign. I think it's a sign we need to hear more music. I got my lighter ready.
I know that these streets are not paved in gold, and joy is a path you have to walk on your own. So don't try to squeeze water from stone. Jerusalem, 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 Jerusalem. I know that some days the sun doesn't shine. One minute you frown, the next minute you smile. But standing still, you still move forward in time. Jerusalem, 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 Jerusalem. We've been fighting for so long. Think we're right, but Lord, we're so wrong. But it'll get better, Mama, just hold on. Jerusalem, Jerusalem. So many wars fought over your streets. Still your children can't find a place to sleep. That simply means this love is incomplete. Yet everyone claims to know just how your heart beats. Jerusalem, 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 Jerusalem. I know that these streets are not paved in gold. Joy is a path you have to walk on your own. So don't try to squeeze water from a stone. Jerusalem.
Allahu Akbar. I'm telling you, just looking at the comments and the emojis that everyone is sending in the live stream, everyone is so happy. We're seeing beautiful, Lord. Everyone's voice is so soothing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was really beautiful. And you know what's funny is it didn't even freeze once during that song. So I think it's a sign we need to hear more music. You know? It's just
Okay.
the name of the game today.
Well, I'll do one more song, and then we can. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Don't make no sense Tell me be righteous, can't pay the rent. And Jesus bled, pocket full of coins, Judas wept. Every star may fall from this earthly sky. Have no fear at all. It's always you and I. And when I'm be alright, when I'm gone, be alright. When I'm gone, be alright. When I'm gone, be alright. Speed as a bullet, son of a gun. Pick your poison, baby. You wanna. People die every day where I'm from. I'm living up my youth. I just wanna have fun. We feel like just lost my cousin last night, 2 shots to the head. Talking about punching. Strong liquor that tells me something now. Well, it's not worth it. These bullets fly over bullshit. But the line in front of the pulpit, salvation in that full clip, lost his life. Tell me how I be alright. Tell me how I be. No fair at all. It's always you and I. So tell me, can you feel my pain? Tell me, can you relate? Feel this? I walk around mad at the world when I know it's me I hate. Feel this? Work so hard every day to buy them new 2-3s. Then I wonder if MJ care for a nigga like me. Feet look fly but I still can't jump. Running all day from the man with the pump. Clap that thing that will leave you slumped. Watch my back, I get gut from the front. Tell me how I be alright. Tell me how I be alright. I'm losing my fight. I'll be alright. Tell me how I be alright. Every star may fall from this earthly sky. I'm no fair at all. It's always you and I. It don't make no sense. Tell me be righteous, can't be the rent. And Jesus bled, pocket full of coins, Judas wept. It don't make no sense. Tell me be righteous, can't be the rent. And Jesus bled, pocket full of coins, Judas wept. It don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. Jesus bled and Judas wept. None of that don't make no sense. Jesus bled and
What a voice. What a voice. MashaAllah. That was beautiful.
I'm done,
Wow.
Abbas. I think one thing I'd want to say, whew, people see us write and we perform and we do things, but they don't know sometimes what it takes, Every time we put something down, we anchor ourselves to our memory or to a space, to a place. And in order to give you the honesty of that thing, we take ourselves back to that place to give you the truth. And it's not always an easy thing to do. Yeah, it's not always something that we look forward to. And sometimes the songs trick us. And we're like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to sing this song. And then quarter way through the song goes, oh, do you remember why you wrote me?
Wow.
Remember?
Wow.
You remember that day? You remember what day? You remember what is going on? Do you? Yeah. And then halfway through, you can barely control yourself, you know. But we're thankful still. We're thankful. So, yeah. I'm done, Abbas.
Yeah, that was really powerful, man. That was really powerful. I appreciate that. And you're absolutely right. These are like I think of art sometimes as a capturing your consciousness and crystallizing it for one moment.
Yeah.
And anytime that art is experienced, it uncrystallizes that consciousness of just that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really powerful.
A
Thank
whole heap
you.
of little Pandora's boxes, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how I'm going to recover after today's live stream. My heart is in a million different pieces, just scattered
Yeah.
around the world now. That's really beautiful. And, you know, we're going to jump into our discussion here. And we'll start with you. This is something that came up, I think, a few times during today's live stream. Ghazi was saying, you know, here's a poem. It's kind of naughty, but it's got a prayer in it. And then, you know, here you are playing on the guitar, but like right behind you is calligraphy that says La ilaha illallah. You know, and so it's you know, it's what on the outside might look like contradictions. It's for a lot of people say no, music is absolutely haram, especially stringed instruments. That's the devil right there.
Right.
I would like to ask you what that journey is like Muslim, what is artistic journey, and you know he can speak to that. And I'd love to hear from Ghazi and Medina on that as well, because God and Allah and Islam was present in all of your sets, and so was the guitar. So I really want to unpack that a little bit.
I want to start off that by saying that the God I worship is not a fool. So anybody who worships a fool, that's really up to you. Like I don't worship a fool. And he made my heart, and he made it the way he made it, right? Even saying he and it and whatever, we worship something we can't even understand, right? And we start off and they say, you know, as a little child, you say, well, where's God? And they say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everywhere and he's omnipresent and he's omnipotent and everything. And then they say, but the only way to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to walk this one path, go into this one place. But he's everywhere. He's everywhere. But just walk this way. And I can't do that. I reject that outright. And I think if, like the Prophet says, peace be upon him, in al-amal bin niyat, if every action is judged by its intention, then I'm good. I'm good. You know, I'm good. All I need to do is purify my intention at every stage of what I'm doing. And if I realize my intention isn't pure, I step back, I think about it, and sometimes you go for them. And again, I'm a human being and I'm growing. And again, he made me. He's not a fool, you know. And so, just to talk about the journey really quickly, I was born into a very, very militant community, right? My father was involved in a coup on this island, which was the only Islamic coup in the Western Hemisphere, as far as I know, and I don't know how long anybody could remember, right? So when I say I grew up militant Islam, I grew up militant Islam, right? I didn't know guns were illegal until I was like 6 years old. So the people that I was around, yeah, I'm not even kidding. The people that I was around, their Islam was imported. You know, although Islam came to my country through the enslaved Africans, it was lost over time. So when Islam found its way back here, it found its way back here through the East Indians, the Tablighi Jama and that type of thing. And so you know that philosophy already. So they didn't even want African Muslims standing up next to them to pray in the lines. They didn't want us to marry their daughters. There was all of that type of racism that was going on in Trinidad in the Muslim community. Fast forward 30, 40 years, and they give birth to a child like me, who's living in the internet world, who's living in the world of social media, and who has a chance to travel and see the globe and understand that there are different ways of living. And I've always been an artist. And it's not something I could ever deny. So when I picked up the guitar, it was like, you know, a lot of snide comments. Yeah, you know, a lot of people saying they're going to pray for you. A lot of stuff for Allahs. But I've seen the power of music. I've seen what it can do. I've seen how words have failed over and over and over and over again. But I pick up a guitar and I play E minor. And it doesn't matter who you are, you feel that. I don't need to say anything. You feel that. And you also feel this. I don't need to say anything. And so, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us something that's that powerful, why should I not use it? I purify my intention and I go forward. So anybody else who has anything to say on that and wants to have the halal haram debate, I just don't enter it. I did not sign up to worship a fool. I will not debate with fools. I'm sorry.
Wow. These are powerful words, and the struggle that you had in the context of society, of the society that you were born into, and the society that you live in. I want to ask Ghazi now, because Ghazi, you're in Muscat, Oman, which, from my very limited understanding and knowledge of Oman, is a very traditional society. And I'd love
Abbas,
to know.
sorry.
Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing before you ask Ghazi? The one thing that really spurred me on and got me really angry and sent me off on my trip, there was a statement by a mufti. He was saying that the only halal drum in Islam is the Arabic duff. Okay? And I come from a place where we play the djembe, and we play the kata, and we play the dula, and we play like a whole heap of drums. And there was this one brother who taught us how to drum when we were growing up, and he died. And we were playing drums at his funeral, but the African Muslims in my country, we don't own a cemetery, a Muslim cemetery. So we have to bury our dead in what is a traditionally East Indian Muslim cemetery. And they did not allow us to go into the cemetery with our drums. They told us we could bury him, but we could not go into the cemetery with our drums. And that was the moment I realized, yeah, this is not for me. I'm someone else. I exist in another place because this can't be real life. Anyway, carry on.
Wow, what an experience.
Yeah. Sorry, Abbas, didn't mean to cut you.
Nah, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, it's a very vulnerable piece of yourself, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm really hoping that it's inspiring to folks that are tuning in. So, Ghazi, the question that I wanted to ask you is if you can give some sort of a context of what Omani culture is around the arts, and then present what you yourself are doing with your work and how that fits into it, and what your sort of journey was navigating through that.
So do you want the politically, or do you want the absolute truth?
Hey, listen, after the poem that you shared, we don't have any veils or masks. Okay.
Mohammed's been dropping bombs the whole night, and I thought I was forthcoming, but this guy.
Don't say bombs. Don't say bombs, Sach. Don't say bombs. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the wrong side of the world to say bombs. I know, I understand, but that's crazy because a lot of the I don't meet a lot of Muslims that are okay with music. They have their own reasons. A lot of us have our own reasons, our own understandings. But I actually, surprisingly, relate a lot to what Muhammad has been saying. And my favorite line out of my entire religion is إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. And I genuinely believe, I wouldn't phrase it as boldly as Muhammad might have, but my God does understand what I mean and where I come from and what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to say. And that's the kind of God I would selflessly provide my entire being and all my efforts. I would be lying if I were to say I am the closest thing to a Muslim. I am one. I try to be one. I'm full of flaws and mistakes, and I have my share. But the one thing I do with such conviction is make music. What he was talking about, which is the mufti that, and there's many muftis that say that music is haram. These instruments are, you can use these instruments, but not these instruments, and yada yada yada. But even in our very strictly religious and let's call them old-fashioned beliefs of Islam, we have a lot of instruments that technically aren't a part of culture. We have this big clash between religion and culture. It's culturally okay because we've done it for so long, but then technically, as far as some of our muftis, this is not okay and that's not okay. We have a lot of African influence in our music in all across the GCC. Most of the true kind of percussionists that we have, a lot of them take influence, whether it's from the beat, from the style of music, or the instruments themselves come from Africa, and we can't deny that. The GCC in its entirety is musically is very influenced by both India and Africa to a point where you wouldn't imagine. So it's very difficult for us to say now that, oh, you know, this is okay and that's not okay. Your music is based on a lot of people that you're calling haram, but it's okay when you do it with your version, but it's not okay for others to do it. You know, we have a lot of conflicts, and these are things no one talks about. We all judge based on our left field, and it's either okay or it's not okay. And until you guys, the rest of the world, figure it out, what's okay and what's not, I'll be doing me with the belief my God understands what I'm trying to do. I don't write about money, bitches, and fancy cars. Excuse my bonsoir, but I'm so sorry that slipped. But you know, I write about my life experiences, and everyone to most of the things. I mean, half my music is about my mother, praising a woman. And in one of my songs, and hopefully if I get a chance to sing one more song, I'm gonna do this. That's by far one of my favorite ones. It's just a song that praises a woman that taught a young boy to become a man. And how can a God that I completely, you know, devoutly try my best to, although I fail many times, to work towards or work for, not understand that I mean well with my music and my message, and I'm just trying to share and find a level where I can connect with more of my people who serve a common purpose, which is to praise the Lord. That's what I can say.
Yeah, absolutely. And may Allah continue to purify our intentions always, you know, so that we can use the gifts that He gave us in His way as well. And you know, it's like you said, you have a piece that's dedicated to your mother, and there's so much that can be said about the power of sound in affecting the state of your heart. And so I'm very, very curious to hear now from Medina, in some ways, all the way on the other side of the spectrum here, where now your father was a musician, right? And you grew up around music. And I'd love to hear some community and that narrative from the other side of the spectrum now as well.
Yeah, so my parents both became Muslim before I was born, so I was raised by converts. My mum is American, my dad's English. My dad came into Islam via music because he was a jazz session musician in London in the 60s. Then he was in a mod band called the Action, which then kind of transmogrified into a prog rock called Mighty Baby. And then one of the members of that became Muslim kind of secretly. Some funny stories involving they were in a tour bus and a massive thing fell off a top rack and hit my dad in the head, and it turned out to be a copy of Quran. And later on, everyone in this band ends up becoming Muslim, apart from one of them. And so then the band kind of they changed direction. They played the Isle of Wight, you know, like they were sort of really getting into Sufism. They were in thawbs and jalabas and turbans. Like they would play gigs, and one by one they'd jump over the fence at the back of the stage to go pray in a field, and then come back onto the stage and play. So it was like a very weird, but yeah, early 70s. Lots of people were in a complete social kind of upside downness, and so little by little, then they that band broke up and they formed the Habibia with Hakeem Archuleta and a few other people who were kind of in the US. They recorded one album, like improvised after about 2 hours of dhikr inside in a studio, and then they just. So that's one really interesting. It's on YouTube. So there was this kind of ferment of like spirituality and like, you know, white people getting into Eastern spirituality through Buddhism and stuff like that. And like in the US and then also in the UK and Spain. And so in the middle of all of that, my dad he came across Andalusi music, and was the actual songs. He was a little bit like, not really sure about religion. He was raised Quaker. Sounds, the melodies just completely blew him away. You know, I love ones that are now fairly common because this diwan has been popularized in Zaytuna and in places like California. You know, نحن في روضات رسول طالبين رضا قبول.
We know that, like, that used to be played in my father's car every. Oh my God!
Right,
Okay.
so I grew up with it. This is how I learned to sing, was singing this stuff at the لك من نعمتي عالية. You know, you had this much. This is like real soul music. South of Morocco, a lot of it, like East Anglia in England, it's like complete, like you know, it's like a lightning bolt connection to the source, you know, way, because also we went to school. It was like completely white. It was a very peculiar story. I do write about it a lot in this book, which is my most recent Visible Muslim. But yeah, so my family, my dad, one thing. So that's one reason that makes me kind of go, yeah, there you go. That's the album. He's done his homework. He's got it on vinyl. Mashallah, mashallah.
I own this on record. If Man But Knew, the album that you're talking about.
God bless.
As well. This
is, of course, by none other than Peter Sanders. And just for our viewers, check this out. Medina, which one of these is your dad?
You know what? I have very little. I've got you on my phone to the side. Move it across a little bit. I think it's the one in the middle on the top. Move it back again. Yeah, it's the one in the middle on the top. That's my dad.
Wow.
Yeah. Listening to Mohammed's story from Trinidad is so fascinating because it's like it's actually so different from the way that I grew up. I mean, I've totally benefited from white privilege and as a Muslim as well. You know, like I'm talking of fatwas against music, like a woman singing and playing a stringed instrument. Like I just, you know,
khalas.
Yeah, khalas. Like I take all the fatwas, but like I think people treat me as like a, I don't know, novelty or something. Like, okay, we'll allow this because, you know, she's obviously new to Islam or something like that. I don't know. I'm just like, well, whatever. I'm just going to carry on doing it. But because, you know, I found like it's helped me through so many difficult times. Like a guitar, an acoustic guitar. I used to play a guitar very similar to Muhammad's. Didn't have so many stickers, but like very old, very simple. Like it doesn't have to be like a super duper thing. This is like more like a flamenco guitar, but it's still like it's such a, I don't want to say simple because that sounds like it's detrimental, because I think simplicity is incredibly hard to achieve and it's actually incredibly valuable. And like most of the time we underestimate it. But, you know, it's just a sound box resonating against your chest. And that's something that can affect your state so beautifully, you know. I love playing a lot of open chords, you know. I found them sort of to have I found it very healing, especially through my youth. So that always made me sort of just go, you know what, I just love this. I'm not going to stop doing it, you know. No. What was that? Oh, am I getting an echo? Anyway, and so then you can find arguments about it as well. You know, there was a companion, Allah ibn Zubayr, who used to surround himself with women who sang and played lutes. And another argument is that the haram all comes from the Quran. Quran doesn't forbid music. Okay, so there's lots of arguments you can do that. You know, you can get into the whole kind of argument line, or you can just go intuitively. God meets you where you are. And I don't want to create any barrier between me and this sort of intuitive experience of the divine, which is something that I might find in nature. I might find it, I don't know, just playing with my kids, or in something that is often kind of neglected as a spiritual practice. Yeah. So
You know what's really funny for me? I never realized how spiritual my music is until I play it for certain people or in front of certain audiences, because it just has different meaning, right? So I'm playing those 3 songs for you all, and I'm like, Jerusalem, and all these different references that I'm making. Like, wait. But every single thing I write, whether I try to or not, it inevitably ends up circling back to the same thing. Well, this is pretty. This is my praise music. It's what it is. You know what I mean?
But also the Quran, it says Allah says to the Prophet ﷺ, speak to people in the language they understand. And if this is the language people understand, like, in the US, Islam has been through hip hop, you can't deny that from people. You can't sort of say, oh, well, this doesn't belong because it doesn't fit the mold. It's like the mold needs to be bigger. We need to stretch the mold.
I had a moment, one of the moments in was that we did a song with Major Lazer, right? And at that time, a lot of people in my community were really kicking up against what we were doing, and they weren't really interested in us doing a song with Major Lazer or not. But then, about a while after the song was released, Major Lazer did an official video for the song. And do you know where they did the video? They did the video in Egypt about the Syrian conflict. Now, I had no hand in it. I had absolutely no hand in what they chose to do. They could have done anything. They did the video in Egypt about the Syrian conflict, and all proceeds that came from that went to aid children in Syria. And I had no hand in it. I had no idea that's what they were going to do. None of that, And as far as I know, they raised well over 200,000 US.
Wow.
From doing that, right? Now, I don't have 200,000 US to give to anyone, but I have a guitar and I have melodies that are in my brain. Like last night I was standing up and I'm thinking to myself, I can't make up a melody. I don't know how to do that. If I could, I would just sit down here all day and just make songs that everybody would just sing for all time. But I have to wait until something comes to me, These are beautiful things that we are given, man. And forget the rest. Yeah.
Also I found that some people have said to me that they had forsworn listening to music. They had, decided they weren't going to listen to music anymore. And actually, for a while, I stopped playing because when I was younger, when I was at university, I'd play it like the only places that you'd get gigs would be occasionally you get like a student union bar or something like that. Or it would be a pub, and it would just be like, okay, this I feel like I'm crossing the line here because it's not being heard, it's not being appreciated. And like what you're saying, Mohammed, like the songs, there's something subtle there which you need to really listen to, and if you hear what it's about. But like, I don't want to be talking necessarily explicitly about Islam, about religion, because I know a lot of the people who are going to be listening to have very serious resistance or barriers or programming against religion, and that would really put them off. But I also think there's a way of talking to people which reaches them, and it speaks to them in their language. And so then I sort of stopped playing. And then when I was at Rumi's Cave, I don't know if you guys know this place, very famous. The last GAMA meeting was with Sakina Pilgrim. Yes, amazing artist. I can play my music to people who are listening with that state of presence and who recognize that this is a devotion and it's not just, somebody trying to get attention, And I didn't have that sort of come down I would sometimes have after playing a gig at a concert, like where people they're drinking. Maybe some are listening to it and they're really enjoying it, but others. And I would sort of get really high off of the applause and all the vibe, and then I'd really crash afterwards. And that was when I realized this is why a lot of musicians end up on junk and stuff like this, because it's really painful, that kind of come down. And then performing in a like a devotional space, even not talking specifically about God, it just makes you people are tuning in, like they know what you're talking about. And it completely was different. Like I didn't have any come down after that. It was just like, yeah, I'm doing this for Allah. So it's not about me. It's not about praise. It's not about being applauded or, so that changed, but it's definitely about the intention. I really like the hadith that I have quoted there. I use it a lot as well.
Absolutely, and I want to share this. We're getting in the comment section. Someone mentioned really complex and constructive conversations happening. Appreciating the openness of the artist. This is a great forum, and everyone is being super open and super vulnerable. And I think this is really where the magic happens. And the three of you are musicians, and you have found your voice. And it is so uniquely your voice. And I wanted to share, anyone who wants to get into more of maybe the spiritual and mystic side, here's a book. It's called The Mysticism of Sound and Music, the Sufi teachings of Hazrat Inayat Khan. This book it changed the way I see sound and life and music and all that. And what I want to share, and this, he specifically talks about music, but if you're a poet, it pertains to that. If you're a painter, it pertains to that. And even if you don't dabble in what's considered arts, your life is an art. It pertains to that as well.
Yeah.
He says, every person is an instrument in this orchestra, which is the whole universe. And his voice is the music that comes from each instrument. Each instrument is made distinct and particular and peculiar so that no other voice can take the place of that particular voice. If then, with the instrument that God has made and the music that God has intended to be played in the world, one does not allow that music to be played, and one develops a voice which is not one's own, naturally, that is a great cruelty to oneself and to others.
Mashallah. Yeah.
So it's really about connecting to your own heart, connecting to your own truth. Ghazi, like you said, everyone's gonna have opinions. In the meanwhile, while you guys figure it out, I'm just gonna do me. And if you don't,
audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay, I have a couple of points I'd like to make before I forget them, because I have like a memory of a goldfish. One is I'd like someone later on, but during Ramadan in Oman, which is quite soon, well, for the whole world as well, music is kind of 50-50 all year in the Arab world. It's sometimes okay, sometimes not. And for those that are halfway in between with music, during Ramadan, it's a definite no. And that's one thing that's always kind of thrown me off. I don't understand it. Someone I relate to, let's call it a friend that understands and appreciates music, is fine with it all year, but then come Ramadan, because it's such a holy, strictly religious time, it's completely not okay to have music. But the rest of the year, it's kind of okay. So there's that custom of the internal conflict of some people think it's okay, but then at specific times, haram again. There's an on and off switch, which I have for many years tried to understand, but still can't wrap my head around it. But because of where I am with my music, I normally am very vocal and public with my music. But once it's Ramadan, I still practice music. I still play it. I still write it. But I do it very privately, and it's that time of the year that makes me doubt if what if the whole world is right and you're wrong. And to me, the whole world is everyone around me, obviously, that suddenly this 1 month of the year what I'm doing is completely not okay, but the rest of the year, I have half of the crowd cheering and the other half saying astaghfirullah. So that's one point. The second point is, a lot of the conversation has been around okay, let me phrase it this way. I come from a very strict Islamic household, and my family has forever and always really strictly been my mother, honestly. Great influence in my life. This is the second time I bring that up. But she's a very devout Muslim. She practices more than anyone I know. And at a younger age, she always would make me go through the processes, through the actions of what a Muslim should be and what a Muslim should be doing and what a Muslim should be reciting or saying. But it never had any meaning, and it never held any meaning to me in my heart. It was just something I was told to do, and that was the right thing to do. And funnily enough, through the arts, whether it's, I mean, for me, mostly it's music and writing, or reading. But through the arts, I've honestly found meaning in all the teachings that I've been taught at a younger age. But just because I was told to do it, it didn't make sense. You could tell me this sheikh says it, or that mufti says it, but and the Quran says it, but it doesn't make much sense to me. The middle ground for me was always kind of through the arts, through music itself, and through music I've learned to, you know, give to my neighbor, or respect the elders, or do my dues to my parents and whatnot. So a lot of the things, a lot of the teachings that are in Islam, I found meaning to and a grasp to through my music. So there's this, and then I have the same religion that I got to through this platform, which is music or the arts. That same religion is telling me that the means of which you got to us is now the thing that is wrong. I have, it's this, because just because I got there through the arts and through music, no one has yet come up and given me a thumbs up saying, oh, you did it the right way. It's like, hey, you got here, congratulations on getting here, but you got here on the wrong path. You know, you, so these are internal conflicts. It's not a discussion. It's just these are questions I'm throwing at you, and I'd love to hear some of what you guys might say. So take into consideration that, and the Ramadan topic, if that relates to any of your cultures.
Here's my
Yeah.
Spotify playlist. When I was going for Hajj, I made a Spotify playlist. I'm like, all right, what kind of music do I want to listen to on the pilgrimage? So when Ramadan comes around, y'all check out my playlist. I got Sami Yusuf, I got Abda Perveen.
See, but I can't understand. Why do you have a halal playlist? It doesn't make any sense. That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a puzzle.
I think I know that I'm in a much different place to where you are, Tazi. I think I resigned myself to live my life terribly a long time ago. I don't mean terrible like in a bad way, but I don't mean terrible like to live my life terribly, but I consider myself to be a storm when I need to, and I can be calm when I need to. And I've had to develop that because there are people who have not seriously considered their life in the way that you are considering your life. But yet they will give serious opinions as to how you should consider life. You understand what I'm saying? And when you meet those people, you have to understand and look at them and realize who you're talking to. Because if it is that I'm sitting down every single day and I'm thinking about my Lord and how I can better serve and how I can be a better person, and every single day I do that, and there's somebody else who they wake up every day and they recite Quran and they learn Quran and whatever, but they don't try to inculcate that into their life. You understand? I had not really an argument, but someone the other day was talking about prostitutes or whatever, and I said to them, in the same way that an infant isn't, that an old person isn't closer to the grave than an infant, a prostitute isn't closer to heaven than a nun or someone else. You don't know what's going on. Like, you don't know. You don't know. So when you look at me and you tell me I should do this or I should do that, do you know what I was put here for? Because I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. Now, can you open up a book somewhere and show me where my path goes and how I'm supposed to? Because the one thing I do know is the reason that they say the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is narrow is because it was really only made for one person to walk, and that's you. That's your path. Not anybody else's own. That's yours. That's yours. And only you can find it. You know what I mean? So I hear you. We are in two different parts of the world. In my part of the world, I'm able to seclude myself and go, you know what? I grew up in that community, but I don't know if I spent 2 years in Libya. So I kind of have an understanding of what it's like to be in an Islamic country. So, but yeah, sometimes you just have to look at those people, and they might be people who are very dear to you and just say, I am not who you think I am anymore. I'm someone else. I'm the person that I've become. I'm quite content. I'm quite happy to be that person. And I have to defend that person now. You know? Yeah.
Mohammed, can I ask you? Can I ask?
Please.
Um,
Please.
there's an Arabic saying which I don't exactly recall, but the gist and the meaning of it says somehow summarize this. Speak to the foolish in their foolish manner, which basically means don't try to convince somebody that you're right if they don't understand or if they're not on your level of understanding. So are you trying to always stay true to yourself, or do you always find people that don't necessarily understand you? Do you just say, okay, you're right, I'm wrong, or do you put your foot down and say, no, let me try to explain to you why I'm right, because maybe in that you feel like that you're benefiting somebody else, or do you always
Civ-
kind of take your stance, the defensive stance, and say, hey, he doesn't get it, he won't get it, I'll just back off? Where
yeah.
do you stand? Do you
It
fight
depends.
to get through to
Yeah.
somebody, or do you just defend yourself?
I don't have all the energy in the world. So it severely depends on the situation, right? So I'll give you an example. Years ago, I was at a Eid celebration, and the mosque I was at, there was a very steep step, and there was a sister, full niqab, right? And she had a baby in her hand. Now this baby looked to be probably 3 or 4 months old. Um, she was stepping on her jalaba. It was so long that she was about to fall down the step. I was behind her, and I grabbed onto her, right? I grabbed onto her and I moved her to a position of safety and I walked down the step. When I got to the bottom of the step, about 5 seconds later, I got a call on my phone. And there's a brother on the other end of the phone and he's angry and he says, I don't know what you brothers are into, but if you see my wife fall down in the city, you just leave her there. You don't touch my wife. You don't like And given that story to say, at that point, I had to open it out and make a point of what was happening. Had I met that brother alone and he was that way to me, then I would have said, lakum dinukum waliya din. Like, clearly we don't worship the same thing. But if it happens in a place where there's a lesson to be learned by people around, then you do your best to teach the lesson. But one on one, honestly, people are gonna be who they're going to be. As far as I'm concerned, I am not going to spend 3, 4, 5 hours sitting down with somebody who is utterly convinced that whatever they're convinced of. Um, but if it's a forum and we're discussing things and there are people who might benefit, like there are younger Muslims coming up who need to hear something different, who need to understand that there's something different in the world, then yeah, let's talk for days. But if it's just me and your decrepit ass, if it's just me and just you having problems with things, then no, I'm not gonna argue with someone like that. Yeah, time and place.
That's really fun. There's a saying that I really love, and I don't remember who told this to me, but we were having a discussion about something very similar, and someone said that God saves his judgment for Judgment Day. God himself saves his judgment for Judgment Day. That's coming at the end. It's the Muslims who don't have the patience to wait. Um,
So
and
true.
I say this to say, like, we've all heard stories growing up of the sinner who, in the last moment before death, their soul was saved because they gave water to a thirsty dog in the desert. Or about the saint who spent his whole life in worship, but right at the end, near the end of his life, was tempted and he fell for the temptation.
Yeah,
Right?
you know what
It's
gets me
just,
about
you say what now?
what gets me as I sit back and I think about it. This conversation that we're having ends up being the one that we have. And I'm not saying that we don't need to have it, right? This is great. But it ends up being the one that we have. And can you imagine if we could drop all the judgment, the conversation that we could be having? You know what I mean? But we constantly have to come together. And those of us who've been scarred by it, we come and we look for healing among the others. You're always like, come on, okay, this is how I feel and I want to heal. But, we will get to a point, I know. And I don't know if I will live to see it, but 3, 4 generations from now, maybe, where we'll just accept. I really do hope we'll just accept, you know? Yeah.
We can officially a very bright optimist. He sees the best in world. It's not happening
Listen,
anytime soon, buddy. I promise you.
I don't have children just yet, but
These are
inshallah, I'll have some.
these are from my great grandparents, and I
Yeah.
think there are forever going to be discussions that are going to be reoccurring. But
Oh,
as
yes.
long as we have these discussions and keep these thoughts and questions, and that's why
Yeah.
this live session is super important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think really what Gamma is about connecting people's hearts. Gamma is just about, I we do our job of gathering all the Muslim artists. Now that you all are gathered, you can see the healing that comes out. And sometimes to heal a scar, you have to pick at the stitches and open the wound again, right? And that's what this is. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart for this conversation. Alhamdulillah. um, it's been absolutely invigorating, and I know we could keep talking on this topic for many hours, and we have so many more topics. We're coming close to the end of the hour, and I wanted to end in a very special way, which is, Ghazi, we gotta hear one more song from you, and then I would love, love, love it if Medina could end the session with a salawat or a nasheed or anything with that.
I'll get my book.
Ghazi, how do
Yeah,
you-
I got. So this is what the quarantine has done to me. I normally have a lot more.
Why did I think you had? Why did I think you had a full of hair?
Because I've been hiding it all night, but now that we're all opening up and we're being honest with each other,
the
I
veils
shaved
are
my head.
lifted.
I feel like I'm just meeting you for the first time.
Quarantine is driving me insane.
Quarantine's
Mashallah.
really yeah, huh?
Okay,
It's a
well,
new year, new
since
me.
in the interest of just I'll just put my locks
Yalla,
down.
Muhammad is
Solidarity.
next.
Solidarity. Solidarity.
Oh, mashallah.
Mohammed, your headphones were off. I was saying you're next, buddy.
With what? With what?
What's another song?
Yeah.
Liberating. It's a new level of spirituality. You need to try it.
Yo, Rastado, anyhow. Yeah. Let's get this music.
Are we gonna do the song now?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm not gonna do the one I spoke about, which is about my mother. But I will definitely share that link with. I hope you guys listen to it. It's one of my most vulnerable songs, and I really like it. But I feel like doing something different now. And this song is more about the notion of friends, or your ever-changing circle of friends that you think are your. When you need them, they're not there. Everyone can relate to this at some point. So it's a lovely song, and I'd like to do that one. It also mentions the mother, so she's somewhere in there, always. Mama once told me. That's my Casio watch. I apologize. I can't shut it up. I don't know how. It's gonna stop right now. So sorry. Wow. Okay, it's done. I apologize. I'm so sorry. Okay. I hope you can hear this. My mama once told me your friends are your worst enemies. But I was never one for listening. Oh, and now come and look at me. See, I was strong when they were weak. Now that I'm down by these peaks, the lessons I could teach about friends out of reach. Mama once told me your friends are your worst enemies. I was never one for listening. Boy, now come and look at me. That's it. It's a short song, guys. This is very repetitive. Thanks for listening.
Wow, I could just listen to that on loop all night long, man. You have a gift. You seriously have a gift. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm. Mm.
I was, but I don't want to turn the volume up too much. I don't want to.
Is that? Can we
wanted to
do
try
a global
why
jam?
can I be about the lag in the sound?
Yeah,
Mm.
I didn't want to do that. Okay.
As soon as we figure it out, Gamma's gonna host a live jam session.
This is such a special night, guys.
Alhamdulillah.
I really
Wow.
appreciate it. Thank you. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you,
God
Haji.
bless.
Yeah. Very pleased to meet you, Gazi, and Medina, and Anna.
Mashallah.
And the pleasure is mine. Medina, let me just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
Medina, you're muted.
that's
Unmute myself. Thank you so much. It's been such a incredible pleasure to be. I just wish we were all in the same room.
What that?
I guess that's an impossible wish, not just because of the fact we're so spread out globally, but also because we're all in quarantine and we can't even be in the same room as people next door.
yeah. As soon as this blows over, we should all meet up in Oman.
Wow. Guys, what a suggestion. You're going to love Oman, by the way. It's a beautiful country, I promise. I'm trying to blow my own horn here. I get it, but, you know.
Alhamdulillah. Mashallah. Mashallah. That's beautiful. And so of the live stream, Medina, we'd love to hear something holy. Anything
Something holy. Well, you know, I'd love to sing this Come Like I'm In with the guitar, but I'm just forgetting the chord I used. There's a really beautiful chord. But I just can't remember it. But I can't work without it. Oh yeah, play along. You couldn't hear me, but I was I'm not Abasa doing the
Hijabi Abbas.
aubergine hijab look. I just wish I could remember this one chord. Something like that. Okay, let's just give it a try. من نعمتي علي كم لك من نعمتي علي ولم تزل محسنا إلي ولم تزل محسنا إلي الحاشا جانينا غديتني في الحاشا جانينا وكنت لي قبل والداي وكنت لي قبل والداي الله ربي الله ربي عوني وحسبي ما لي سواه عوني وحسبي ما لي سواه خلقتني مسلما وأولاد خلقتني وأولاد فضلك لم أعرف نبيا فضلك لم أعرف نبيا أسجد حقا على جبيني أسجد حقا على جبيني نعم وخدي ونظيري نعم وخدي ونظيري الله ربي الله ربي عوني وحسبي ما لي سواه عوني وحسبي ما لي سواه يا ربي صل على النبي يا ربي صل على النبي ما توليت سورة المثاني ما توليت سورة المثاني سحاب الطور وآله صحاب الطور ما ربح الناس بالإيمان ما ربح الناس بالإيمان الله الله ربي الله ربي عوني وحسبي ما لي سواه عوني وحسبي ما لي سواه أطلب الحق في سعادة أطلب الحق في سعادة لكل من ضمه زماني لكل من ضمه زماني الله ربي الله الله ربي عوني وحسبي سواه عوني وحسبي ما لي سواه
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for sharing, and for everyone tuning in, thank you for joining. We will see you inshallah next week. Stay tuned on the GAMA page. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.